Hey, this is Winston Zeddemore, CEO of Zeddemore Industries and member of the original Ghostbuster team. You're listening to Why We Bust, brought to you by the Windy City Ghostbusters and Memoriam Development. We're talking about members in the community and giving back. So suit up, shut your traps, dial in your PKE, and keep busting. Because it still feels good. And before you ask, no, I did not catch the number of that ghost train. Sorry, I missed it.
Thank you, CEO of Zeddemore Industries, Winston. Great way to kick off our Why We Bust this evening. So, everyone, welcome back to Why We Bust, the podcast where we dive into the Ghostbusters fandom one proton-packed journey at a time. I'm your host, Matt Goldenot, and today's guest is part of our hometown team, the Windy City Ghostbusters. We are thrilled to be joined by Tristen Lapish, a passionate fan, a master of modding equipment, and the owner of one of the most unique Ecto vehicles out there, Ecto XV. We're going to talk about his early love for Ghostbusters universe, how he got involved with the Windy City team, his gear building process, and what it takes to bring a one-of-a-kind ride like the Ecto XV to life. So, strap in. This one's going to be a ride. Tristan!
How's it going,
welcome,
everybody?
My friend.
Good to be here, Matt, as well as James. Thanks for having me here.
Yes. One of our members of Windy City here on the show tonight. So we are rolling Windy City proud tonight. So as we do on a hopefully weekly basis, we try our best. We're gonna jump into that Ready Player One DeLorean with the Ghostbusters logo right on the side and take a trip back to Tristan's early days of getting into Ghostbusters. So what was your earliest memory of Ghostbusters? How did it happen? What can you remember?
So this was kind of I'm sure everyone's got their own, like, how they were introduced. When I first got into Ghostbusters, I was honestly a little skeptical at first. So let's rewind back into 2016. It's almost been 10 years. It's kind of scary, for me at least. I had just probably a year now been in my job at Best Buy back in the day. I used to work in the Gurney Best Buy as someone in the warehouse. And I'm just flipping through Facebook, and one of my coworkers, his name was Adam Svitak, he and another coworker of ours was building the Lake County Ghostbusters. This is a now defunct group that ran here in the local Lake County where I live. And he had posted about a flight suit that he had brought for his buddy that he had in our admin office, their security office. So I'm like, as a nerd myself, I'm like, Ghostbusters flight suit here? What? I'd never really done any cosplay or anything, but I'm like, I'm a nerd. So, of course, I go up there and talk to him about it. And he's like, you want to throw it on? And I'm like, absolutely. Who's not going to say no to putting the flight suit on? So I sneak into the admin office. Right. I throw that thing on. I walk out the admin office, and I get this look from Adam going, let me talk to you about Lake County Ghostbusters. And he gives me the spiel of what the Lake County group did at the time. It was a fairly fresh group. They didn't have 501c3 or anything. Hardly any events under their name, so it was like basically brand new. And they explained how they went about it. And I was honestly a little skeptical of its charity work. I was like, is that a big thing, dressing up as a Ghostbuster to do charity work? I didn't know. I never had heard about it before. But he finally convinced me into it. We threw a proton pack on one of our other coworkers, Mike Pastelacqua, had. It was a foam pack that he had bought. And I went out to the 4K zombie run at CLC here in Lake County. And the reactions and everything that I got from that event was just bonkers. And at that point, I was hooked. And then it was just a slippery slope down the slide to end up where I am here at Windy City.
It is a slippery slope, and it's one that's easy to fall into in this fandom, and when you're part of a franchise. So, hey, just real quick, we got a Patrick here. Patrick, you want to say hi and what you're up to, real quick?
I'll say hello and goodbye. I I came on for that intro because I can't stay long. I got to put my 3-year-old down to bed. I want to see Ernie, but looks like I missed it. But
yeah,
you guys,
unfortunately, you'll have to catch it on the rerun.
I'll do that. Well, you guys have this plenty in hand without me, so I'm sorry to be a distraction.
All good, buddy. Love to see you back on the screen here, and we will
nice
be talking
to see you.
All right, bye-bye.
Some big things to come here at Why We Bust.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you threw on the flight suit. You got the taste of it.
Yeah.
But what do you remember from Ghostbusters in your early days, like as a kid? Like, did you watch the movie first? Did you? Because we're not. I don't like to age people and date people.
Sorry. I was born in 1996, so
right.
Obviously this was way past the time where the first and second movies had come out. You know, the real Ghostbusters hadn't come out, but around that time we had the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yes.
And I was entertained by that show a whole bunch, but it wasn't my only source of Ghostbusters. My parents grew up around Ghostbusters, so throughout my childhood, there was constant throwbacks to the quotes of the movies, always opportunities to watch the movies with my family. You know, I never really got to see them in theaters, but, you know, I still grew up around them, you know, so, you know, like there was like one time growing up, I never really remember, like I would remember my dad yelling at my siblings, not yelling, but like when they were little itty bitty, really couldn't talk or anything, they'd be crying or whatnot, and he'd hold them up and just do you're fat, your belly button sticks out too far, and you're a terrible burden on your mother. And it took me years to realize he was quoting Ghostbusters too. Years, you know.
Oh, that's great.
But you know, like that's where I kind of grew up with it, just like always around the quotes. My family's a bunch of nerds, so you know, I was bound to get around all that stuff. I think Matt's frozen there.
Nice. So it kind of got. Am I back?
Oh, there you are.
Am I unfrozen?
Yeah.
Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
That's a fun thing. That's the fun thing about internet is you never know what's going to suck up bandwidth. So you had Ghostbusters kind of ingrained at an early age.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, there's so many good quotes from the movies. Like it's, you know, as a parent, you got to throw some of those around. So
yeah.
Did you? Now you were, you know, obviously a little bit younger when Extreme came out, but were you able to catch some of Extreme? Did you catch some of the real Ghostbusters on DVD? I think it was on DVD at that point.
I actually never really got to watch the real RGB until my adult life. Right, I never really caught any of the reruns, but I did catch Extreme Ghostbusters, and that was kind of like my big introductory to the thing outside of the, you know, watching the VHS or the DVDs of Ghostbusters we had in there, was watching the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Nice. Now, did you have any of the toys from any of the series when you were a kid?
Unfortunately, no, I did not. That was one of my darn moments, is I never really had any of the toys. Yeah. I might have had, I don't know, did Hot Wheels, I had a ton of Hot Wheels growing up. I might have had the Ecto Hot Wheels. I don't know if they had one back in the day. I can't remember.
Back in the day, there was a small handful of them. You had around that time, you had the Johnny Lightnings. You had, there was, oh geez, I think there was a Ghostbusters 2 Ertl Ecto.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, there were a handful of them out there. Not as prevalent as they are today, where you know they come out with them seeming like every year you get a different iteration of it. But you know,
hey guys, we got to hydrate.
Oh, is it time to hydrate? Yeah, we're definitely going to hydrate. So yes, we have the fantastic Capri Sun here.
Do not have anything. I should have grabbed one when Matt mentioned it. No hydrate for me. I mean, I have some, you know, adult drinks behind me, but I'm sure that won't cut it.
It's all good. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So, what's your favorite movie? Is it Ghostbusters 1? Is it Ghostbusters 2? Is it something else?
Um,
Or do you like the cartoons more?
so let me. Does this also go for the newer movies? Because growing up, I always enjoyed Ghostbusters 2 much
Okay.
more than Ghostbusters 1. So I'm very much on the bandwagon.
Which is the correct answer.
Yeah,
That is the correct answer.
But like, I personally really enjoyed Afterlife. It quickly got skyrocketed to one of the top of my list when Afterlife finally hit, and it's one of the ones I love to rewatch.
What was it about Afterlife that pulled you in?
It's
like, what cemented that as your favorite Ghostbusters movie?
It's kind of more of like the return, you know. There's a little bit of nostalgia there, but a lot of the boys are back. A lot of the childhood I got to miss from a lot of my peers, like you guys, that got to see the movies in. I got a chance to see, in theaters, brand new with everybody else. A lot of it is just the memory of us all sitting inside a movie theater together, and all of us laughing, crying, cheering, yelling, all of that, the energy that was behind it. So there's a lot of my enjoyment towards Afterlife is ingrained with the emotions that we all shared as a collective.
I'll agree with that. I think Afterlife was kind of a modern day turning point for us in the Ghostbusters fandom, and even franchise as well. Now, you had been a part of the group for a while. Had you seen an uptick in membership when Afterlife came around? Because you were part of our membership committee.
Yep, absolutely. When Afterlife came out, we had an uptick. We even had an uptick in membership and just in general interest, even when the 2016 movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we get a new movie, there's always an uptick in memberships, more people interested in whatnot into it. And it was really reassuring the level of people we got. Because there was a time where there was a bunch of old timers that were starting to retire, and we didn't have a whole lot of new people coming in, and Afterlife hit. And then we got 20, 30 new members, all, around my age, ready, willing, able to do the hard stuff that some of the older members were starting to, run out of steam for.
Right, and that's what's kind of cool is once you get a new part of the property, it kind of reignites some of the interest for people, and you definitely got to see that firsthand. So with Afterlife being your favorite, what is your favorite moment from Afterlife?
As someone who builds ectos all day, every day, works on them, it's hearing Ecto 1 fire off for the first time in forever with lights and sirens going full code 3. That was probably one of my favorite moments. Watching her rip and tear through that cornfield. That was I was
Yes.
That was awesome. And then again, second runner up is them ripping through the town, because it was just.
Yep.
I enjoyed that too much.
As a movie car guy, anytime that the Ecto hits the screen, my face is always lit up. But I think it was, did they have it in the trailer where the Ecto was ripping through the cornfield too?
They had a brief moment of it, yeah.
It was the brief moment, and I think for me it was like at that moment I was like, okay, this is going to be good.
Yeah. And it was the moment was watching Trevor trying to start Ecto 1, and you see that wire pick up on its own and touch the ground, and I'm just like,
yep. That's the moment right there. Grandpa's like, all right, I know what to do, and we're gonna make it very climactic.
And like, as a car guy, having a loose ground on a vehicle, I've been in that exact position where someone forgot to put a ground in, and it was like a critical ground point, and it just wouldn't start. I'm like, I've been there. I don't remember what color wire was there, but that's like, as a car guy, like, I assume that was a ground that they messed up.
I would probably concur on that, but as a car guy myself, entirely relatable moment where it's you've been at it for hours and there's just that one thing that you forgot or you overlooked. So
Yep.
I'm right. Totally relatable moment.
The amount of times I go to like test Ecto XV stuff and I'm like, it's not working. Oh, fuse.
Whoops.
So it was one of those very relatable, but also just like, yeah, moments, you know?
Yep, I will agree with you. So, Ecto 1 or Ecto 1A, what's your favorite?
1A hands down.
1A hands down.
1A
My man.
hands down.
My man.
Also a correct answer.
Yep. I enjoy the upgrades that came with Ecto 1A, as well as just the aesthetic look of all the new gear and whatnot. So if you look on Ecto XV, I've done a lot of the same gear that's on there. You know, so it's like it's my favorite car. Of the two, I miss Ecto 1A, and I wish that Sony would bring 1A back for a future movie.
I will concur. Or a upgraded version. So we're gonna skip ahead. See, I have notes that I like to try to follow here. But what ends up happening is like we jump around. So we're gonna get into the Ecto section, Tristan, because you know what? That's where I feel we're headed.
Yeah, that's fine because you were all some level of neurospicy. Someone's ADHD here, and we're just following the little tidbits, you know, wherever that dopamine goes.
We're gonna follow the jelly beans and see what rabbit hole we go down. So, speaking of Ectos, if you could have a modern Ecto that was not your truck, what would you pick for a modern Ecto?
That's actually a good idea because the nice thing about the original hearse was it was everything that they needed at the time. A heavy, equipment hauler that they could have all of the guys with their gear ready to roll. A full team, 4 people. If you wanted something like that in today's day and age, it would be pretty hard to find a vehicle that's not like a pickup truck with a cab or stuff in the back where you can have the vehicles, or a step van, kind of like the thing they used in
a Sprinter.
Yeah, the Sprinter van, something that is designed to haul equipment. Even if they wanted to kind of keep up with the idea of using, a hearse or an ambulance, a modern, 3,500, 4,500 ambulance would do perfect in today's day and age. I don't have the money or the space to store a vehicle like that.
Most people don't.
Most people don't. But that is if you're kind of looking for a kind of apples to apples comparison.
Right.
Because an ambulance versus the OG hearse, perfect, plenty of room for all the guys in gear, full team and whatnot. But they're all boats on the road. They're not the quickest thing on the block. They're not the most nimble. So it kind of goes down to like, what are the requirements of the area in Chicago, or not in Chicago, in New York? A vehicle like an ambulance would be okay because they're used to having those equipment running through. But if you decide you needed like a 2-man hauler, 2-man in their equipment, something like a Kia Soul, or vehicles like that, SUV, some kind of SUV would be perfect for that. Out here, where in Chicago, sedans and whatnot, that's okay for 2 people haulers. But like further up north, where I live, where like sometimes you might need to go off road, it's kind of where trucks and whatnot would, big Jeeps would reign supreme. It just kind of depends on where you need to go.
Okay. So if you were going to build your perfect Ecto, again, that's not your truck, what vehicle would you use?
As someone who does have some love for the original taste, honestly, I would probably go out and buy a modern hearse. because once again, they kind of fill that niche where you can stuff 4 people in there in their gear. Not the comfiest of stuff, but it has the room. Plus all the room for the equipment, as a standalone vehicle, right? You have the room in the top and in the insides for scopes, analyzers, spectrum, analysis stuff, all that junk that you need. On the other hand, in the modern day and age, the equipment wouldn't be as big. A lot of the computing power would be offloaded to like some server back at the firehouse or the home base. So
Good point.
You pick up all the stuff and just high band information out of the vehicle and let somewhere where it has the faster computing power to run it, So I think like a modern hearse would be perfect for, my kind of like go-to, because it's close enough to the original where you get a white one, nice solid hard top,
right?
You put the gear on there, and it has the same energy with the more compact and simplified detailing that you would want in a modern Ecto.
I like your thinking. Stay classic, but update. And you gotta go with the 1A livery. So Stay Gold Tony Boy 87 says the Extreme Ghostbuster Ecto garbage truck was always really fun with mobile containment unit. I concur on that. Mobile containment unit would be fantastic. Garbage truck, again, like we were talking, where you're driving it would depend. Like driving a garbage day is every day in New York City, so
right.
It would get around okay.
It would not go very fast, but with the vehicle, yeah.
Yes.
So
you could not
like a garbage truck would be great for like if you had like a whole hotel just haunted to the extreme, and it's like, all right, we need to dump the traps now, and a lot of them. Or if you stick like the containment unit, the Frozen Empire confirmed the containment unit is just a large trap, right? So you take the containment unit of the garbage truck, and on the top you put doors. Now it's a mobile giant super slammer,
Exactly.
So rather than containing Gozer in all of the different traps in the cornfield, just drive that thing under her or under him, under them.
Sure.
And then boom, in the containment unit that goes. So it's like take the Super Slammer from Ecto 1B, the video game, and shove it and just upscale it. And that would be the garbage truck is what I would do.
You're ready for full scale mass hysteria at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're good to go, man.
Cats living together,
I love it. Oh, so let's get into your truck.
Okay.
How did the inception of Ecto XV come about?
So Ecto XV started out, the idea that I wanted to do a truck was the ideas that I came about while I was still driving my old man's Dodge Ram, right? So I was always driving that. I love driving, the trucks and whatnot. So it's like, this is kind of the vehicle that I want to settle on when I go to build my Ecto. And I had a lot of time to kind of like sit there and like figure out the aesthetic, using a bed of a truck as like the primary thing. So I've had ideas about making like a drop-in attachment for a mobile containment unit, like get like a couple 50-gallon drums, weld them up together, paint them red, this big old fucking, sorry, I apologize. I got too excited and I lost that.
Hey,
that's a demerit.
It's a demerit. You're allowed one accidental F-bomb per episode. So
okay, PG-13.
PG-13.
But yeah, so it started there, and then when I finally got into a good position to buy a vehicle, at first I was like, all right, I want white, gray, or black. Because if I got black, I would have done the black and purple.
Okay.
And gone with that. But I ended up, the only vehicle I could get my hands on with basically no credit at all was the blue pickup truck we have nowadays. And it would kind of hurt me at first, but considering that I actually had to have all my credit bureau accounts reset, like deleted and restarted at the age of 19, 20, it was kind of hard to do really much. I couldn't even get credit cards at that time. Yeah. So long story short there, when I was put in the credit bureaus and whatnot, they put my dad's name down under my SSN, not my name down. Yeah. So I had to
That'll
do
cause some confusion.
Yep. Because I called him up and I was like, hey, I'm trying to do this. I couldn't even do my tax return. It was that bad. Yeah. So long story short, we got that sorted out. I was able to finally get a cheap credit card, high ARP, all that fun stuff. And I ended up having to co-sign with my grandfather to get this truck. That's why I was so limited. But they were able to get kind of close to exactly what I want, except for color. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's see what I can do with it. Right. So at that point, I first started out with, getting the decals on there, the caution stripes, the logo and everything. And then I started messing with emergency lights in the grill. I had this cheapo white and amber light bar on a universal cab mount. And I remember I was driving her to a parade that I did with Lake County with that light bar on, and it's got the T-slots all the way along it. And I never put in like any tubing or anything into the T-slots. So guess what it did the whole drive out to McHenry? It whistled.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Incredibly high pitch the entire way. It was hysterical. You just driving down the road.
Oh man, that's almost as bad as not twisting a ratchet strap on a bed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that was after that. I had gotten the headache bar, and I grabbed that 54-inch MX-7000 that I have on there now, and then from there it just kind of evolved. But it was kind of like a slow progress. It wasn't until the what were they called back in the COVID era? The stimulus checks. When I got the stimulus checks, that ramped up the production.
That's a good way to spend that money.
I was still working the entire time. I was like, I want to build Ecto. And from there, me and one of the other, Josh Teasdale, one of our other guys, me and him built our 2 Ectos side by side. We finally started getting the equipment. I got the overbed rack, and I was like finally able to take what I had drawn down so many years ago and start putting it together. And there's actually like one of the days we did a ton of welding at my place for welding up the racks. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and we were driving back to Round Lake, and Josh is in the passenger seat of mine. We're just scarfing down McDonald's burgers going, this is the best stuff ever. It was like the only time McDonald's has ever tasted as good as it was. We were so exhausted from working on those roof racks.
That is the hunger of accomplishment right there.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Well, that's why if you look at my truck, Ecto XV and WKA, a lot of their equipment look identical because they were built side by side.
That's cool. So a little cohesion, a little bit of consistency between the two vehicles.
Yep.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, because I've helped build a lot and revive a lot of Ectos in the recent years. So it's like, yeah, I had my little touch everywhere I go.
You have to. It's the Tristan signature.
Yep.
Very cool. So what do you think was the biggest challenge on Ecto XV for you?
On Ecto XV, honestly, like most of the equipment building and electrical routing wasn't that big a deal for me. The most difficult thing in recent I've ever had to worry about on this truck was there was 2 moments. One, a scary moment that was easily fixed, and the hard moment. I'll let you pick which one you want, because one of them's exciting, one of them's not really exciting.
Let's go exciting.
Okay.
We like exciting here. Let's keep the viewers interested.
Yeah. So the exciting thing was when the light bar caught on fire.
Oh, jeez.
So we were at the 4th of July parade. I forget which town it was, and we do it every year. Jason's always driving in it.
Are you talking about Darien?
Maybe I think maybe it was Darien. Yeah, it was the Darien parade. It was that really long one. It was like
Yep,
the first.
that's Darian. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first like hot day of the summer, and we're driving down. We're all great. We get to the end of the parade. I look up at my light bar and I'm like, huh, the lights are acting weird. I'm pressing buttons and they're not turning off and whatnot, and I'm like, I wonder what that's all about. And then I drive a bunch of people back to where staging was, get them in the car. I look back up and I realize there's smoke billowing out of the light bar. And I'm like,
jeez.
oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Like, rip the Anderson connector apart, killing power to the light bar. It's a class 4 fire, electrical fire. So pull that power connector, because that's how you kill those fires. I ripped the covers up, and the controller had short circuited and burnt. Like half of the PCB was gone. The internal lens were all clouded up. It stank, because if you ever have been around FR4, which is the material it's the core material in PCBs, that stuff burns and it smells. It's gross.
Yep. It's pretty. It's disgusting. Yes.
So,
yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, that was the oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God moment with the Ecto, because literally it could have bursted into flames as the plastic begins to melt, and you can't easily get lenses for those these days, those MX-7000s, because those were back in the 90s. So yeah, that was a electrically exciting time for it.
Now, what's your favorite event that you've done with Ecto XV?
My favorite event with Ecto XV. Parades are always a fun one, but the cons are probably my favorite. The first time we were at Wizard World was pretty fun time. It was like that first time ever working in the con with my Ecto, putting the lights and sirens on. It was really exciting seeing all the reactions from everybody. It was probably one of my favorites. The only other one that tops that, honestly, would be the one time that I've been to La Rabida Children's Hospital with the Ecto.
Oh, nice.
So like there's the excitement, and then there was just the heartfelt, those two moments, and allowing like the kids jump in the truck, play with the sirens and the lights, visiting them. That whole event, that whole visit was one of those things. This is why we do what we do, and it will always hold, a special part in here.
That's part of the reason we do this, right? Is watching people's faces and fan interaction, and being able to have a large focal piece like you do when you're driving that around on the streets. Like, and now it's one thing to be doing an event with an Ecto, right?
Yeah,
it's another to have this as your actual like daily driver.
Yeah, I don't have a second vehicle.
Yeah,
Ecto is my only vehicle that I drive every day, 70 miles a day, all the way down to where I work in Buffalo Grove and back where I live. It is, and it's on 94. So it's all highway driving, 4-way lanes. The amount of photos, the amount of people I get speeding to catch up or slowing down to like, they'll come by and then slow down going like, what the? It's
you might as well be the Wienermobile at that point.
Yeah. I've had cops follow me and do this. There was one time I got followed into work by a cop.
Geez.
He had pulled somebody over in the turnoff right where I get off to go into my job. He had just finished the stop, so his lights go off. I cross past, and he starts following me. And I'm like, okay, he's done with this thing, yada, yada, yada. I turn into the parking lot, and he follows me in. And I go to park, I stop, I turn off. I parked right next to Ecto WK at that time. It was the original car. So there's now 2 Ectos. standing right next to each other at where we work. And he's like, this is awesome. He was asking all things, and he looks up at my light bar. My light bar has green domes on it, visually colored domes. And he's like, they're green. I can't say anything about them. You know, 'cause if they were red or blue, I'd get in trouble.
I say, as an Ecto owner, and to future Ecto owners out there, know the rules of your individual state, county, city, everything, because you don't want to get fined. You don't want to have anything bad happen. So
So always read through like the emergency lightings and everything. The biggest thing is, one, don't have them lit. If you have like the true blue domes that Ecto One had, get covers on them, because if you find a cop that's having a bad day and decides he wants to mess with the nerd, you know, he's going to mess with the nerd to find whatever reason. You know, and when I built Ecto XV, I specifically went green because in Illinois it wasn't codified, which means it was open game. You know, because amber, purple, violet, red, blue, all of them were codified. The interesting thing that I have to deal with this year is that at the beginning of 2025, they actually codified it here in the States. So green is now officially codified. Now, the question is, are they going to actually bother you for having green? Probably not, but you do that at your own risk. Some states, they still don't have green codified, and I highly recommend green. One, it's a lot brighter. Green beats through the fog, the rain, the snow, everything a lot better than any of the other color emergency lights. It's just the way the wavelength works. So they're really nice. They look really good too. And part of me is like, Slimer is green. The most iconic ghost from Ghostbusters is green.
Yep.
So, you know, that goes into effect. Not to mention there is the old Chicago tradition of putting a green emergency light on the fire engines, on some of the emergency response vehicles. And that's another throwback why I wanted to go with green, is because it falls into that tradition.
I was not aware of that.
Yep.
Fun facts with Tristan. I love it.
So the more you know.
So what's the next upgrade for XV?
So the next upgrade for Ecto XV is going to be a Super Slammer. If you don't know what it is,
we're working on it.
Yep. If those of viewers that are watching have never played the video game, back from, was it 96 was released, if I remember correctly, Ecto 1B was introduced, and that was the video game specific Ecto. It had some cosmetic upgrades, but on top of it, it had what was called the Super Slammer. This also, people called it the trash can, because it was a vehicle mounted ghost trap. And it was actually what they used in the game to capture Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. They drove the Ecto underneath it and just him into it.
Yep.
So I spent probably the last year on and off, because I did go through a kind of like a burnout area where I was like, I'm tired, I want to do some other stuff. But I had gotten the model and textures pulled from the video game, loaded them up in Blender, and used that to kind of build a 3D printable real world version based on the model and the textures from the game. So it's not 100% accurate, but you can't really build the 100% accurate one because the model doesn't feature all the details. A lot of it's in the texture and the bump maps and everything that makes it look the way it does. So that's kind of the next big upgrade.
You're going to get it as close as possible.
Yeah, I've gotten it as close as physically possible while also making it buildable.
Right.
There's the one thing that it won't do, it doesn't open. In the video game, you don't actually see it open. They just put a big bright light coming out of the top of it. But in a lot of the concept arts, it actually opens up like a flower. There's 4 petals that come up and out. The thing is, if you go off the model and not the concept art, the model doesn't support that action. The way the mechanical stuff is laid out doesn't make any sense for that kind of mechanism. So I was like, people are going to see it more than the mechanical side of things. So we're going to keep it true to the model and not to the intention. One, because I don't want to make the doors and have them flip open while driving.
Yeah, that could be bad.
That is the biggest reason why I'm making it a static prop. Is I don't want like one of the pedals to and go through someone's windshield, you know,
Right.
especially on 94 going 80 miles per hour, because everything I build is built to hold up to that speed.
Exactly. So we'll step away from the Ecto for a second, because
Absolutely.
if there's something I know about Tristan is he takes pride in his actual equipment too.
Mhm.
So how many packs do you own?
I only own 2 packs. At one
Mhm.
point, I had owned 3. Unfortunately, my original proton pack that I got back in 2017 is no longer around. But I do have the 2 that are directly behind me. My HasLab pack, which is in the Afterlife configuration. Then I have my custom proton pack, Kodiak, right next to it. Kodiak is built kind of on the original idea of my original pack. If people have been around since 2016 2017 era and have gone on eBay to look at proton pack parts and whatnot, they would have seen the packs built by someone that went by Scorpion on eBay. Those that have not been around don't know anything about that, but there are some people that I know I've talked to that know who this is. And the pack that I bought off of him was his own custom design that he took a Nerf target disc launcher. Like they'll use like little disc this big. So if you're a Nerf nerd like I am, you probably know exactly which one I'm talking about. And he grafted that to the bottom of a proton pack, cut out the cyclotron, hit a 3D printed like midsection, and it cast it to upper, and that's what that pack was. And I was like, that's cool. I want that. Because as my tag right here says, is I'm all for the experimental. I love building the stuff that deviate from the norm. So I got that pack and it ran good for 2-3 years. It's the pack that I put a Nerf Vulcan as its thrower.
Nice.
And I debuted it at Slimapalooza 2018, my very first ever Windy City Ghostbusters event. And one feature that blew everybody away is rather than like just a 10 millimeter LED in the tube, I had a plasma tube in it. A high voltage plasma neon tube. Yeah. So I lit that thing off and everyone was like, oh, So it was definitely my most tricked out one ever. But I think it was 2020 C2E2. We had actually stayed there the whole week and whatnot, and I'm dragging my proton pack in through the front door, and both straps at the top let go. Yeah. And the top of the pack hit the thing, and it just shattered into a million pieces.
Oh, jeez.
That was
every proton pack owner's worst nightmare is having one of those straps or both give out.
I had both, and I didn't have the kidney strap on because I was hauling it in, and it hit the ground and shattered. It was one of those moments where I'm like, I felt defeated for a long time. It took me about a year after that to like get up and design Kodiak again. And that thing's full of electronics. If I had batteries in it, I would light it off for you. But like, I did that. I was the first person to ever do a ring LED inside my proton pack. That's my moment, and it's the same exact LEDs that people are using nowadays. It's WS2812 LEDs. I was first. But I sat there and I decoded all the communication stuff to the pack from the GB Fans sound and wand board. So that thing is compatible with the actual like GB Fans off the shelf boards.
And that is why you are the experimental equipment technician.
Yep. I spent I was on vacation to Door County with the family, and I have my phone open with a Arduino editor, and I'm writing code on my phone to try when I finally get home to upload it to my computer so I can upload it to a Nano and get it running. That was how dedicated I was to get that thing working.
That is how Tristan rolls, people. That is how he rolls.
It's all or nothing for me.
And that's what I've always admired about you is when you have your mindset to something, you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah. The one thing of all the things that I've done in my what is this? Almost 10 years of Ghostbusting. You want to know the one project that I've spent the entire time doing? That right there. You can't see it. So let me go grab it real quick.
Oh, we got a surprise piece. What do we got? What do we got?
This
I
thing.
knew what that was.
This
Yep.
thing. The Ghostbusters 2 tripod traps. Of all the props. Like, I could go on and on about proton packs. This thing I've always dubbed as the holy grail of Ghostbuster props.
This is Tristan's holy grail piece here. This is I have been in the present. Is that V1 or V2?
That is the V4.
V4. Okay.
So there's been 4 renditions of the tripod traps. Here, let me grab it again. So this is V4. So these have not been debuted. This is the first time them being seen in public. This is number 3.
World premiere.
World premiere. Here we go. So V1 and V2 never made it past the V section of their design. That's because I kept like running into different conflicting designs for the actual meter that this is based off of, because the original prop is based off a Scanwell V-ring antenna meter, and there wasn't a whole bunch of documentation on that device. That's like the bulk of this V section here and the body here. There wasn't a whole lot there, and so V1 and V2 were all based around what I could find lying around. V3 started when Steve Sidrowski actually sent me a packet of various detailings and whatnot, including measurements that he took from the original props that are in the ownership of a collector.
Nice.
That I will not, or I think everyone knows Adam Marish. He's the one that owns them. And when I finished the tripods themselves and I started working on the box and the button, the hub unit, and the activator, I actually ended up getting in contact with Adam Marish. Great dude. There's a lot of people out there that like to hark on him for buying these things and then holding them in a collection. I don't blame him for holding them in a collection. They're a one of a piece, prop, and they're not in great shape. I have seen hundreds of photos of the original tripods with measurements that he sent me to design V4. This right here, the most accurate representation of the antenna,
right there, folks,
and everything right there. And because I ran into him, met him because like someone was bashing him in a post that I posted about V3. And I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry. I didn't post this for someone to basically bash on you. And he's like, no man, it's fine. It's fine. I'm like, hey, if you ever get time, can you send me photos of these things? He's like, absolutely. So I got, midway through COVID, but I have a folder full of photos no one has ever seen of the original props.
That's awesome.
There's part numbers and details that you would have never guessed. So that's
cool.
Yeah.
So that is your unique kind of contribution to our community, is you have rebuilt what would have seemed to be impossible.
Yeah. And like before I did it, there was like maybe 2 or 3 different people that made their own renditions, a lot of them being wood builds. And while, they're all great builds in their own right? They didn't have the resources like I was available to. So when I showed off V4 to Adam, and he's like, that is like the most accurate I've ever seen anyone build, was kind of it's like I try not having an ego, but that was definitely an ego boost. I'm like, I don't need this.
Awesome, right there.
So and like I know at least one person in Australia, I think he lives in, that has built my models, because I posted them on my GitHub account. I posted all the files for free on GitHub account with part lists on what exactly you need to build them just like they were intended. And I found like the appropriate gauges that drop into them. V4 that I haven't posted yet because I haven't done the design work because my brain got distracted by other stuff. Was I'm working on electronics for these. So the original V3s that I debuted a couple years back, they lit up, they blinked, but they didn't make any noise. The new ones make noise. And I actually hired someone off of like Fiverr or something to recreate the startup, shimmer, and shutdown effects from Ghostbusters 2. Like I could loop them.
So when will those be debuting? Will they be coming out at Fan Expo this year?
I won't be able to make it this year. I have other commitments at that same weekend, which sucks. But hopefully soon I can debut the V4s. In the meantime, V3s are all available.
Fantastic.
I saw someone that said something about Arduino editor. Can you speak more about that? I want to Arduino my Slimer because the chip blew and Halloween costumes won't replace it. So the being able to like program Arduino and whatnot is very like case by case basis on what you're trying to accomplish. So without knowing what is inside of the Slimer, I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what you would need in order to bring it back alive. If it's just like a bunch of flashing lights and whatnot, that's fairly easy with the digital outputs of an Arduino Nano. It was like digital write into whatever pin it is, high or low, to turn stuff on and off. If you make noises, you'd need some sort of external audio chip. Like the DF player is a really good one that a lot of people use for small projects to control audio. And servos, if it's got like a servo for controlling arms or motors, you can just hook up a MOSFET between the motor and the Arduino to then power the motors. So there's a bunch of stuff when you can like revive props and whatnot that way. I've done it before.
There you have
Sorry
it.
for taking over your guys' stream. I just saw someone had a question.
It
I had
is
to
possible. No, and that's something that I can't speak to. I'm lucky I woke up, put pants on, and walked out the door today. That's how life works some days. So now because we're getting into the final stretch here. We'll say the lightning round.
Okay.
What is now? We talked about XV's your favorite event to do with that. What's your favorite event overall that you've done? Go.
I would have to say the visit to La Rabida in general is by far my favorite. It was one of those events that is just reaffirming why we do what we do. And now, though I don't have the heart to keep doing it every time because it is, you have to have it is heartbreaking to go through the halls of La Rabida to see all the sick kids and whatnot. And it's something that's hard for me, but it is reaffirming why we do what we do.
You are absolutely correct. Favorite piece of equipment is a Kodiak?
Favorite piece of equipment is the reason why I spent the last 9 years.
I was totally kidding. If you could own one piece of Ghostbusters memorabilia or prop, what would it be? Besides Ecto 1. Besides Ecto
1, I'd have to fight Adam Marish for the original tripods, man. That's my favorite prop, So I'd have to fight Adam Marish for those.
I like it. Favorite uniform color?
Oh, black, hands down. I've been like you guys have known me for how long? I've always rolled the black flight suit with the Ghostbusters 2 logo. So when Frozen Empire came out and they had the R&D, I had ordered a patch right away. I'm like R&D. That's
you.
This is my title since I've been with Lake County Ghostbusters, Experimental Equipment Technician, which is a reference to the video game. I had to.
Yep.
I haven't worn a khaki flight suit in years.
I say I've never seen you in one. You know what? If you threw on khaki, I wouldn't even recognize you. For somebody that wants to get into prop building or building an Ecto, what's the one piece of advice you would give them?
So the biggest thing is research. A lot of people want to like jump in and just start doing things, and there is a lot more involved that you should really, really know before you're starting some very heavy projects, especially like Ecto. Knowing stuff like electronics, how to properly set electronics up, or like smaller props. Learning like the ways you can do make it come to life. Research is critical to any project. A lot of people are, like, oh, I can do it with what I have lying around. You want to do it, you want to do your proper research so you know how to build it in a way that not only makes sense, but can survive the different environments that we'll go through. There are a lot of times where, not to bash on people because they make do with what they do, is I've seen a lot of times in the Ecto community where, because they kind of like did with it what they did, they would drive around on a highway and a part would go flying off. Something would break because it wasn't built to withstand that. And it's not, not to be mean to those builders or whatnot. It's just, they weren't knowledgeable enough to not know how to build it in such a way that would prevent that.
Right. Research and planning.
Yeah.
Research and planning.
Critical to any project.
Yep.
Don't that's definitely one you don't want to shortcut. Is the initial parts.
I will agree with you on that. So we're gonna come to the final moments here. So what, Tristan, brings you here? Why do you bust?
To try and make the world a little bit better than what it was yesterday. Even if it's just one person's life changed. That's why. Yep.
That is absolutely commendable, man. And I've done many events with Tristan here. He is the light of the event, the man to see when he is there. So Tristan, I hope to see you out soon at some of our wonderful events.
Yep.
We have the Kane County Toy Show coming up here Sunday, the 27th, here in Kane County, Illinois, off of lovely Randall Road. Norm, any other events we got past that were anything we're promoting tonight that I can't remember? We got proton pets going on. We got
there's free comic book day coming up.
Yes, that is May 3rd.
May 3rd in Naperville and Andersonville.
Yes.
So
yes.
One in the city.
And also, Norm, do you have our number handy? So that way viewers can call in to our hotline if they have seen a spook, specter, or ghost to report it to our lovely receptionist.
Yeah, so the phone number is 312-625-2534.
There you go, folks. Rewind that, take the number down, and call. We're ready to believe you. So that wraps up tonight's episode of Why We Bust. We want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us. We will be back next Monday with the next guest. And till then, stay safe. Peace out. Love y'all.
Take care. We're still live?
We're still live.
We're still live. We're not stopping yet.